Hey everybody, what's going on? It's HBCU Game Day. Tolly Carr here, my man Neely there. Neely, we have not caught up in quite a while, man. How have you been?
Hey man, been great. It feels like, you and I talk so often. It feels like it's been 2 years since we last spoke, but it's probably only been 2 weeks.
Yeah, well, so long for the people. You and I talk all the time, but we haven't had a conversation in public. Where do we start? So much has happened. Let me just start right off the top. Your football coach, Coach Prime, Deion Sanders. You've been hanging out at his house. You and Chuck were at what do you call it? Country Prime? Is that what it is?
That's right, Country Prime.
Okay.
And it's nickname or slogan. It is Country Prime.
Okay, so let's see how we want to dive in here. Make sure you check these guys out. Thee Pregame Show at social media. There's a lot of content out already, still a lot of content to come from your interview with Coach Sanders. We'll talk about that. Coach Sanders also was all over everywhere leading up to the Super Bowl week. He had a lot to say about a lot of things that we can kind of dive into that. Let's see, Travis Hunter's been on campus. I've seen him working out. He got an NIL deal this week. There's so much there. Let's start with Travis Hunter.
Let's go.
Have you had a chance to be in his space yet since he's been at Jackson?
Oh, yes. He is totally immersed in college life, if you will, on campus and doing some off-season conditioning with the rest of the team and attending Jackson State home football games. Home basketball games. So he's been there supporting the Lady Tigers and the Tigers when they were playing in the AAC. So he is looking like a well-adjusted college student who happens to be the #1 recruit in the country. So you also see him out there working out with the football team in the mornings and also doing conditioning in the weight room. So he's here, man, and he is waist deep in college life and loving 1400 Lynch Street.
What is he like? What's his vibe? When you walk out and see him running or lifting, is he head and shoulders above everybody? I'm just very curious as to what he looks like.
Well, he and Shedeur Sanders have really developed a unique relationship, and the way Travis's body language is, his personality, he's fun-loving, gregarious. He just fits right in. You wouldn't know he was a new person on the team. People gravitate toward his leadership. Shedeur and Travis went to a local middle school, which happens to be right adjacent to the campus, Blackburn Middle School, which produced a lot of notable greats like me. 1311 West Pearl Street is the address. So they were there speaking to students and went on their own. This was not something, that was orchestrated by the team or by the school. This is just two guys who know that they have some gravitas and notoriety in the community and want to use it in a positive manner. So Travis has hit the ground running, man. He is immersed in college life and appears to be enjoying every minute of the decision he made to bring his talents to Jackson, Mississippi.
All right, fans who aren't as connected are probably wondering, does everything appear to be lined up? Is he going to be a two-way player for Jackson State?
I believe so. He is that talented, and Coach Prime is really looking at using him on both sides of the ball because there's a great deal of marketability that comes with playing both sides of the ball, whether it's stuff like NIL or the major thing, which is the NFL, which should be the chief focus here. Your stock just increases the more that you can do. That's why you saw Coach Prime returning punts and kickoffs and also playing a little corner, if you will, what his real claim to fame was. So I think you're going to see Travis Hunter, that relationship he's developing with Shedeur Sanders off the field. I think you're going to see that offensively as well as defensively.
And Kevin Coleman, he's touched down at Jackson already?
Yeah, he has. He's here as well. And much like Travis, he looks to fit the bill. He is working out with the team as well and attending those home basketball games and cheering on the Lady Tigers, who are currently undefeated in the SWAC, and pulling for the men to stay in this new direction that they are. So you see Kevin out and about, and he's always having a smile on his face and hanging out with some of the other players on the team, and they appear to be getting along just tremendously. So I think these guys who, were just in high school literally a month ago are very well adjusted to college life and enjoying themselves.
All right, shout out to the Lady Tigers basketball team, winners of 13 in a row. As you and I sit here and talk here on a Thursday evening to us, you might see this later down the line on social media. All right, tell me about the trip out to Country Prime, man. Serving up that Kool-Aid, man, it pays off. It just pays off.
Got to give credit where credit is due. It was totally Coach Prime's idea. We were about to do some segments, via Zoom just to get some updates. And he said, no, guys, come out here. Come spend the day with me. Let's see my schedule, see what I'm involved in from sun up to sundown, and let's do some segments out here. So totally his idea. Started, right when the sun rises, and we stayed out there all day to sunset, and everything from getting on the ATV and hitting the woods and the trails to seeing some expansion work he's working on the property, and sitting down for just a candid conversation, talking about some subjects that you really don't get to hear him speak about in the football world. And he literally opened up his home to us and opened up just a personal glimpse into what it's like in a day in the life of Deion Sanders, Coach Prime, at his home, which he calls Country Prime. And, you think it's just a hashtag because he is certainly a marketing genius, but it is Country Prime. If you think everything that you think when you think about the country and think everything that you think when you think about Deion Sanders and merge them together, it is, as he puts it, he feels like the Beverly Hillbillies out there.
All right, let's hear a little bit now from Coach Sanders, hanging out at home, Country Prime.
Is it too loud?
No, it's good ambiance on.
It is ambiance. Playing with it. It's been a lot of decisions made right there. So I ain't got no mic. So everybody got a mic.
You know what? But
they ain't got no mic. So everybody. So ain't no mic. So y'all don't give me no mic.
Before we really go, Chuck, wipe your lips. See, I'm gonna look out for it.
No, we don't. I want all this on too. Don't cut this.
No, it's on.
Yeah, don't cut this. So I don't get no mic.
No, you don't. But see, the thing is, that's your mic there.
I just really say we on a budget.
She got
like, what kind of budget we on? I thought we came up.
We did.
I thought we came up.
We did come up. But we got some more coming up to do in 2022.
Okay.
Like we a long way from 2020. And we're a long way from 2021. We still got some stuff to do in 2022.
I ain't mad at that. We do. I have some stuff to do in 2022 as well.
And we right there with
which
you.
is we.
Yeah, we got to go here, Coach.
We got to complete the sentence. We need to complete the sentence,
man. That's a great place. Great place to start. Complete the sentence. Coach, we had an opportunity to sit down and just watch you at work with regards to the recruiting aspect of it.
Yeah.
Talk a little bit about the recruiting element and how it's gone. You've blown away HBCU football.
We try. A lot of people took for granted when I said that Rod and that staff, they comfort me. We have a tremendous staff. They took that for granted, and thank God that we built it that way, because when I went down with my discomforts and my tribulation, they picked right up, man, and they kept running. Hats off to Coach Flea and the whole entire staff. They did the doggone thing, but they've been recruiting their butts off. It's a certain type of kid out there that we want. We don't want everybody. We don't recruit the whole country. We can't afford it. We don't have the resources to. But it's a certain type of kid and caliber kid that we want, and we've been able to get them. And we ain't buying them. We broke. How we gonna buy them? What's the recruiting budget? Matter of fact, put the recruiting budget on the screen. I ain't been nowhere. I can't move, so I ain't been nowhere to go out there and get them. So we've been doing a phenomenal job with what we have to work with, and I'm so proud of our coaches and staff. It's unbelievable, and the kids, because our kids play a wonderful role in recruiting. Mm-hmm. They really do. Yeah. They've been doing a great job.
We just happened to hear a recruiting call that you were on.
Yeah, that was a four-star kid, by the way.
And a lot of coaches are talking to the kid, trying to convince them to come to where he is. But you just asked that young man, why should you take him? Mm-hmm. He had to convince you to select him.
Right, because we don't want no misses. We don't want to put a kid in a situation where he's not going to be successful. Regardless if that kid plays for me or plays from Mississippi Valley, or FAM, or those are the dogs I named them first. Mm-hmm. I want them to be successful, man. Mm-hmm. These are young fellas. I want them to win. I want them to go and take care of mama for the rest of their lives, or whoever's raising them. I want them to be successful. So I don't want to bring the kid in a situation where we're not going to get the best out of him. And I just needed, the coaches like that kid. I just need to look him in the eye and see if I seen that thing. And I wanted to see how he answered the question. Was he timid or was he a dog? Did he want it like that? Because he wants us as well as we want him. I wanted to make sure there was a connectivity. You know, it's like a blind date, man. Neely done told you about it, unless she bad. You know, you come up like, I don't know about that one. She ain't what
we
you
might
think.
have two different definitions.
Yeah, right.
It's bad to me.
Exactly.
But,
Yeah, right. Yeah, right.
You know, Coach, SWAC championship, this past fall season. But I think a lot of fans are just curious. The state of Jackson State football program, where do you see it right now?
We're so much better than we were at each position. It's unfathomable. When I look at every position, we started the freshman quarterback. He has experience now. The receiving corps, some of the guys that were ineligible last year are now eligible this year, and we've added to that. The offensive line, I think we've already signed 8 linemen. We didn't sign 8 backups. When I go out there and we try to get a kid, I tell him, I want you to come and start. I didn't sign you to be a backup. I need a starter. So we signed out the defensive ends, the rush ends. I think we've gotten better. The linebackers, we've gotten better because they have more experience. That defense front, shoot. We had guys on campus last year that were ineligible that would have helped us tremendously. Now they're eligible, and we've added to that. And the secondary was already like that. I mean, we gave up some stuff in the end. Cool. But still, I think the defense played lights out the entire season except for the last game. None of us showed up the last darn game. I looked in the mirror and see who was out there the last darn game. Like, I'm hanging because ain't nobody else here this last game. So we're a much better team. We're a much better unit. We're a much better coaching staff. We improved everywhere, not just on the field. We improved off the field. We improved in the coaching room. We improved in the media. We improved in every aspect of JSU football. We're improving. Moves that we've made that you don't even know about that we've improved on. And that's really intriguing to think that we were dominant, but we improved. Yeah.
Okay, Neely, I will say this. If you, Chuck, and Deion Sanders are in the same room and there's 2 microphones, Chuck does not get a microphone. Chuck, you just... Sorry, Chuck.
You know, man, I love the way you drew that totem pole. I cannot debate that. I would love to defend Chuck, but you said Coach Prime, Neely. Well, I'm not giving Chuck mine. We're not taking Coach. Yeah, Chuck, no microphone next time.
All right, man. We're working on you, Chuck. Sorry, Chuck. You're just such a lovable guy. But seriously, man, Coach Sanders talked a lot. I caught him on Dan Patrick today. Well, it was not today, but I just saw it today. He was on Levitard. He was on, everywhere. Gillette had him everywhere during Super Bowl week. So one of the things we had at HBCU Game Day, let's start here. The injury last year, it kind of came out on one of his trailers that for his new season 2 of his docuseries that's coming to Barstool. Man, that thing was a lot more serious than the average Joe knew what he was dealing with last year.
Yeah, certainly. A lot of folks were asking me and asking the pregame show, what's all the secrecy? And what I would tell them is that it's not secrecy, it's a matter of privacy. And I think there are going to be some things that come out in these episodes of the docuseries on Barstool, which starts February 22nd. I think you're going to get a good glimpse into what he really went through and endured. And it's going to show a lot of light on what he has put up with and had to battle through, to be here head coaching in college football at Jackson State University. So a lot of the rumors that were flying around during that time of the year, you're going to go back and look at that time frame and kind of line it up and get a real good look at, well, this wasn't just a toe injury. This just wasn't, something that you put a Band-Aid on and walk off. It really impacted his life. And we sat down at Country Prime and got an update from him on that. And he talks about, just how he wants to be home to fully heal and recharge, and how it even bothers him psychologically to be limping around players, that he can't wait to be back at full strength in front of the young men that he's leading so they can see him upright and walking. He doesn't want to be on a scooter. this summer, this fall. So he's doing all the necessary things to get back up and at 'em.
Yeah, and look, it's already in the atmosphere. It was on the trailer. I mean, there was one point that the doctors were, there was discussion like he could have lost the entire leg out of this. I mean, that is, look, I don't know how you deal with that and still maintain your presence. And I know he was away, but he was still connected to the team. Like, man, that would have scared a lot of people. You wouldn't have heard from them in a while.
Well, Tyler, you're going to hear him in our sit down at Country Prime talk about we call her the First Lady of Jackson State football, Tracy Edmonds, and being in the hospital and how he was sleeping, but would wake up and try to coach a game from the hospital bed, and even getting on the phone, and whether he was calling me or Chuck or calling coaches, trying to still manage the football game from the hospital as best he could. So he was making a valiant effort to be engaged, but this was much more serious than we were able to divulge at the time, just as a matter of privacy. But now that his documentary is coming out, I think people are going to really get a good look at it. I happened to be at the office, the football office, his office, when he first showed the extent of what he went through to his sons. When they visited him in the hospital, he was pretty much covered up with a blanket. But there was a segment that you see in the trailer where you see Shedeur sitting there and Shiloh's in the room as well. And it'll be in one of the episodes where he lets them get a look at what he had been going through. And the interesting thing about that, Shiloh, because he went off to college at South Carolina, had played football without his dad as being coach. But during that injury where Coach Prime was out and in the hospital, that was Shedeur Sanders' first time playing football without his dad as a coach. And so you'll remember time-wise, it was when he made his return back to that Southern game down in Baton Rouge that we pulled off that victory in the last seconds and minutes of the game, which was his first game back with us. And when you look back at what was going on with the season juxtaposed to his injury, a lot of things are going to make a lot of sense.
Wow, that's going to be something to see, especially as he says, keeping it 100 and finally maybe letting some people in on everything that was going on. Okay, Neely, you have on your J hat. I love the J hat, man. I need to get one for the shelf.
Yeah.
I'm going to put on my J hat, but instead the J is going to be for journalism here. But I always protect Neely, so I'm just going to talk a little bit. Neely, you don't have to talk if you don't want to. So Coach Sanders talked about his Power 5 interviews with Le Batard, and everybody knew about Florida State. But then, look, sometimes Coach, in my opinion, Neely, he keeps it 100 too much. He could be 99.5 some of the time, and I think it would be all right. So he was in a receipt-dropping mood that day. He named Arkansas, of course, Florida State, and TCU. So there was the whole thing about, TCU last year. And look, I can't keep up with timelines. I don't know when, and I've seen people before try to catch Deion Sanders in a moment where they thought they had him and they didn't quite have all the facts, and then they had egg on their face. So I can only go off what he said. But here's the comment. He could have interviewed in 2019. I don't know. And by the time I see him and have an audience, there will be 20 other news stories, and we probably won't even be talking about this. But here's the thing that I just want to say to you, Neely, because I don't get the invitation to Country Prime like you do. It is so hard to visualize him at this point now being somewhere else, because he is more than a coach at Jackson State, or if he had been at any other HBCU. He's like a black revolutionary. You know what I mean? And like the impact and the feeling you get as a fan when you see him on all these different platforms, like representing Jackson State to the fullest and what that means. And, guys are competitive. If, he wanted to be in the SEC one day, okay, I could totally understand that. But man, what is the feel? And I'm not going to try to pin you on any. I don't want to get you uninvited from Country Prime, but I would ask you this: what has been your feeling on just when you see all this everywhere, and you being a Jackson State guy, just that J being in the middle of everything?
Well, first things first. Coach Prime caught me borrowing snacks out of his home vending machine. And so I've already been uninvited for Country Prime. I'll be back. But in all seriousness, Tolly, I think that this is just a space that we have to get used to. That there is nothing wrong with a coach having conversations. There's nothing wrong with people reaching out to coaches. It happens all the time in college football. We may just be unaccustomed to it in the SWAC or in the HBCU space. However, timeline aside, whenever he talked to Florida State or Arkansas, which, by the way, were before he came to Jackson State, that be it as it may, he is committed to Jackson State University. Even while they're with him at Country Prime, he says he is here. This is where he wants to be. Having said that, just as recently as today, I was with him, and he said this is where he wants to be, and only God knows when he's leaving. That he doesn't have any plans to leave. But there's a segment that we're going to put out on the Pregame Show where we just ask him directly about that at Country Prime, and he just makes it plain as day. He said, "Look, I want to be here at Jackson State. This is where my heart is. This is where my feet are. This is where I'm making all plans to coach from." But he did add a candid however. And that however was he's concerned about his assistant coaches because he understands that from a financial standpoint, if he were to move to a Power 5 or a bigger university, it doesn't change anything at Country Prime. And you'll see these words when that segment is dropped. It doesn't change his financial life. But the opportunity to coach at that level with his assistant coaches could literally be life-changing and generational changing for them. So he told us that's something that weighs on his mind as opportunities unfold about his assistant coaches. And I think that we have to just get used to in the HBCU space, whether it's Eddie George at Tennessee State or Hugh Jackson at Grambling or Coach Prime at Jackson State University, that to make the most of these relationships and opportunities while we have them, because coaching is a transitional industry now. Back in the day, you had an Eddie Robinson and a W.C. Gordon and a Big John Merritt to stay somewhere 10, 15, 20, 35 years. That's not the business model in college athletics anymore for athletic directors or coaches. And so when you have a coach as hot as Deion Sanders, his phone is going to ring, and there are going to be rumors about him leaving. But we hear time and time and time and time and time and time and again from him that right now, man, he's committed to Jackson State University. He always talks about that he wants to win a SWAC championship, win the Celebration Bowl and or national championship, get guys drafted into the NFL, and see coaches not just at Jackson State, but in HBCUs become coaches at Power 5 and also on the professional level. So he'll tell you he has not accomplished all his goals. And until those goals get those checklists, that punch list starts getting done, he is where he is.
Neely, I so appreciate that answer, man. I think that was very solid from you. I gave you the choice of the red pill and the blue pill. I was like, if Neely wants to just stay in the Kool-Aid lane today, you my man. I'm not going to put you out there. But that was a great, honest answer, Neely.
Well, I appreciate it, and I do have a picture of Kool-Aid right here for you. But Coach Prime will tell you, man, he is an open book. He doesn't run from tough conversations or tough questions. So when he tells us something, we report it. And he has indicated that this is where he wants to be. But with anything in life, he'll tell you God knows best, and there's some potential high-evers there because opportunities are opportunities. I just think as a fan base, as HBCU supporters with these coaches, we just have to understand that and say, hey, what can we do to maximize opportunities while we have them versus worrying about where somebody may be 2 or 3 or 4 years from now? Let's focus on what we can get accomplished today, and that's building winning programs.
I was driving around Atlanta today searching for food, as always, because my family only tells me what they don't like to eat. They don't tell me what they want. They tell me what they don't want. So that's always an adventure. So I get to listen to a lot of sports radio, and I was catching, Jim Harbaugh at Michigan just signed a 5-year extension. But just last week, he was a heartbeat away from being the Minnesota coach. So that's a very good point that you may think your guy's gone one day and he re-ups for 5 years the next day. It's just the nature of the business. But definitely not something that we're used to in this space. That is a valid point.
And speaking of re-up, got to give a kudos to Ashley Robinson, our athletic director at Jackson State, who just signed an extension, taking him through 2026, I think it is. So you'll have him in place for another 4 years, potentially longer. And so that kind of thing, helps keep teams in place, keep working personalities in place. So it's always going to be a first thing first, one day at a time, one season at a time. But as best we can tell, man, Deion Sanders, his heart and his head and his feet are right here in Jackson, Mississippi. And he's indicated this is where he wants to be.
Well, let me ask you a follow-up there. Do you sense, because you're there, obviously, do you sense, because you even said this, that there is momentum, that there is infrastructure, plans being laid out that, one day Deion Sanders isn't there. Nothing lasts forever. That this momentum will continue, and it won't just be, oh, well, we got to just go back to the same old, that you can still get the top recruits, that your, basketball teams, are out there winning, facilities are continuing to grow. Do you think that evolution is, you can kind of, what's that game, Neely, where you pull the one piece of wood out and everything is, what's it called?
Jenga.
Yeah, I wanted to say Django. Do you feel like, if you pull out any one personality, no matter how big they are, that stack can stay intact and continue to grow?
Let me tell you this. I think some of the things that Deion Sanders, Coach Prime, has not accomplished in his less than 2 years with us is a direct result of him building something that can sustain his departure. Let's be just unequivocally clear about it. When a Deion Sanders moves from somewhere, you feel it. You feel it when he arrives, you feel it when he leaves. So there's no doubt about it that if Ashley Robinson were to leave Jackson State, you would feel that departure. If Deion Sanders were to leave Jackson State, you would feel that departure. Having said that, these two guys are literally taking their time. How do we win today and build something that's sustainable? So you'll hear them pushing the importance of season tickets and what it means to the program's longevity. You'll hear them talking about student housing, how we need upgrades in that for recruitment and sustainability. And then you'll see them doing things like putting in a turf practice field and upgrades to the locker room, which will be online, the home locker room at the on-campus facility, which will be online in a few months. You see them doing those kind of things because those things will be there when and if they ever leave. So I think, Tyler, that they're taking their time and doing deliberate work and making sure that Coach Prime is doing some things that are not just about Coach Prime while he's here, but to make sure that when we level the playing field and then we raise HBCUs, that they can stay there no matter who comes and goes. One of the challenges that we found in HBCU coaching just across the board is a lot of times coaches are put in positions where they don't leave programs better than that they found them. That they come in and do a job, something happens, they get fired, and you're starting back over. Well, what's being built at Jackson State is that whoever is next, the baton is further down the track. Some things have been put in place that give you a leg up, not something you got to go in and fix. So I believe that sincerely, that some things are being done and deliberately and intentionally and with thoughtfulness and in a manner that may be slow to some, but is being done in a manner so that it is systemic changes and is sustainable for the future.
That is such a great point, Neely. You are on it today, man. I was thinking, before we have these conversations, I kind of run through some questions and analogies in my head. I was thinking if Kirby Smart left Georgia, to give you a Power 5 analogy, you would feel it, but Georgia would still be Georgia. There's so much in place that one person can't just tear it all down for the next person to have nothing. And having covered HBCUs for so long, it has been, from a media perspective, it has been a frustrating thing when somebody leaves and the next staff comes in and it's like you're just starting from the ground back up. It's like nobody left them the key to instructions, the code to the alarm, nothing. It's like wow, we really have to start all over again. So that is really good to see those systems in place in Jackson and as it looks in other schools across the HBCU landscape. Speaking of that, how do you feel, man? I know you and I have kind of talked about this personally, but I know you like the competition of seeing these recruiting arm races. I just saw a 4-star went to Alabama State yesterday, and A&M's been getting them, Grambling's been getting them. I like that there are more sharks in the water.
Yeah. Well, Tolly, who am I as your guest today to set up what video you should go to next? But here's the perfect video to go to next. We have that conversation with Coach Prime, and he just puts it succinctly like, hey, we are better. And even if the other people get better, we got better too. So where does that put us? We're still up on the seesaw. And so I like our odds. This thing has never been about just us. It's been about everybody lifting up and coming together in all these programs, because what you don't want to have, you and I talked about this even about the Black media space, you don't want to just have one entity that is that shining example of what should be done and everybody else is faltering, because you need some parity, particularly as you look to get guys drafted. They need to be playing against like and upward competition. And so we want to see, Hugh Jackson do well recruiting, because we believe we're going to do better. We believe we're going to win the game. So we're not fearful of, other schools signing players. It's exactly what we want. When Coach Prime did his camp here in Jackson last summer, he invited coaches from around the SWAC. He invited coaches from mid-majors, because he knows I can't sign everybody, but I want these young brothers to go to school somewhere and go to school with positive coaching, even if it's not with me. And so we talked about that at Country Prime, and he stands by that. There are a lot of our fans, that really bristle at that, because we want all the best and we want to win every game. But Coach Prime is big on that. No, I'll help Vincent Dancy recruit. If I can't sign a guy, I would love to see him in Valley. I would love to see him Willie Simmons and FAMU. I talk to these coaches. We're in this together. So I think you're seeing from a head coach, a visionary, that he really believes all of us can come up and all of us can succeed, all while Jackson State is winning the SWAC championship and the national championship.
Here's the funny thing, Neely. That's exactly what the old school coaches who are now legends and no longer with us, but their names are on stadiums and courts and arenas. That's exactly how they did it. Mm-hmm. They would drive on trips together, and if they didn't have a spot for this kid, they'd send them over to.
Yeah.
It's not a hard concept. It has worked before.
It's not a hard concept, and it's totally worked before. It just takes embracing, some of those rich traditions and remembering those values, that it's not just about you, that it's not about you, that it is about everybody. And Jackson State, just goes lights out and progresses, and nobody else comes with us, then the mission has failed. Coach Prime being here has failed. Everything that we work on has failed. It cannot just be us. Same thing in the media space. It can't just be HBCU game day. It's got to be the pregame show. It's got to be HBCU Sports Lab. You got to have all these other things clicking at a high level, because, again, that rising tide lifts all boats. We don't need this to just be about one thing, because as we talked about those succession plans, when one thing goes away, if nobody else is ready, then the whole system is gone. And we don't need that in Black coaching. We don't need that in the SWAC or HBCUs, and don't need that in Black media.
Amen. Hit your organ. You got the organ on cue, man. All right. Do we have any more bombshells before football season? Are you out of bombshells, or do we have any more coming?
Let me give it to you this way. And my picks are my picks. They're locks. You recall James Houston, who was dominant in the SWAC and sacks and quarterback pressures, hell of a ball player. We have to remember that James Houston got to Jackson State in the summer. He was not in that transfer portal in January. He did not come with that signing day class, with Shedeur Sanders and those guys. He got to Jackson State in the summer. So I would tell everybody out there, we're not done. That you're going to see some people between August and rewinding back, say, April, who are going to be coming in and out of these programs. And Jackson State, under the leadership of Coach Prime and his assistant coaches, recruiting is a full-time job and a full-time effort, and extends to the fans and families and everybody else. So, yes, Tolly, you can expect that somewhere between tomorrow and kickoff for the Orange Blossom Classic, we're going to have a guy or a couple of guys that nobody saw coming.
How'd you feel about that Alabama State schedule with the Big J for homecoming?
The last Alabama team that scheduled us for homecoming regretted it. They not only got scoreboard flipped on them, they got a scooter as a gift at the 50-yard line. So looking forward to playing another Alabama team on their homecoming. Anybody that wants to schedule us for homecoming, you're going to have a bad day.
If I was an AD in the SWAC, it would be my only choice for homecoming. Like, look, you got to play them. Win, lose, or draw, you're going to play. We might as well have a party and make all the money we can by bringing the big show to town for homecoming. I would do it.
A great point. You know, we jest about these things in the SWAC and give each other a hard time, but the economics is what really is moving the needle these days. As Coach Prime puts it, we play the game, but now we got to start playing the business side of it. And so, 30 years ago when somebody scheduled you for homecoming, it was offensive. It was a bulletin board material. But just as you put it, brother, somebody scheduling Jackson State for homecoming just shows the business acumen, because you're going to sell more parking passes. You're going to sell more hot dogs. You're going to sell more tickets than you normally. You can also take a loss. We're going to come there for that, but it is what it is. All
right, since you're in such an honest, forthright, balanced answers today, let me ask you about the Southern Heritage Classic. That was kind of up and down. It was anytime open negotiating is happening, not always the prettiest thing, but Jackson State will play for this upcoming season, and then it looks like that contract is over for now. You like that move? You down with that?
I do like the move. I think that anytime you're dealing with a situation and negotiations become public, there's some 2020 woulda, coulda, shoulda, if you will. But by and large, the word of the day is leverage. And sometimes people put positions out there on Front Street to utilize some leverage and get some better things going. Jackson State is going to play that game this year. And I would suspect, Holly, I don't have any inside information. This is just a guy that went to Jackson State and has traveled 25 plus years attending that game. I suspect that one day they'll be back on the table because the promoter in the city of Memphis will do right. But I also believe this, that if they don't, the marketplace is going to take care of itself. Just like you had the city of Birmingham who realized, hey, Jackson State is not going to be able to play Southern, all 4 years for a sweep. There's going to be Baton Rouge, Jackson, then off 2 years. We should put some on the table to get them to play that game here. I think you're going to see more and more cities that have stadiums, that have entertainment attached to their name, such as a New Orleans, a Houston, Atlanta, or Memphis, or Shreveport. Even they got a Liberty Bowl there, Liberty Stadium there. You're going to see these people put out bids. And I think what Birmingham put on the table is now the minimum. Anybody that's coming and wants a classic or something played has to meet or exceed that. But let's not also forget this topic. How many classics do you see Alabama playing in, Georgia playing in? They play games at home because that's where the money is. So people are going to have to get their pencil out and their calculators out. And if you can't pay us more than what we're getting at home, you're probably going to end up seeing Jackson State playing more home games than participating in classics in the future, unless it makes dollars, which always makes sense.
And it seems like just in the last couple of months, there's just been and maybe it's just coming to a head, and we didn't see, the factors that we're building up to what we're, seeing now in the execution. But it seems to me if you're a promoter who's had a cozy relationship with the classic or a game, and you just pay just enough to keep everybody happy, and you were the one making the killing, those days seem to be numbered. And I don't know everybody's business, but just kind of looking at it, that seems to be what they're trying to kind of cut out here.
I agree with that assessment. I think those days are numbered. I think that promoters and host cities are going to have to do more for the participating schools, particularly more for the school that brings the most people and economic impact. I also think that promoters and cities that host these events are going to have to do more on alleviating the expense side. You're going to have to step in and pay for band travel and buses and meals and pay for hotel rooms and those kind of things to make the offer more attractive. When you're driving up and down the interstates, the highways and byways, you always see a billboard advertising a restaurant that says bus drivers eat free, because they understand if I can get the bus driver to pull over, that's 60 other people on the bus with them. You're going to have to start doing that kind of thing as promoters. You're going to have to put stuff out there for the bands and stuff out there for fans that make it an attractive thing, because just cutting somebody a check for pennies on the dollar when they're bringing you thousands of dollars and millions of dollars, I don't think that business model is going to fly anymore in the SWAC or the HBCU space. I think that we are coming to terms and grips with what our true value and marketability is and what we have meant to these promoters and to these cities. So I think you're going to see some better deals in the future, or you're going to see people just staying at home.
I can just tell you from my own experience, one of the greatest feelings is when you understand the value that you bring, and you enforce it. That is so liberating. You know, many of us in our personal lives, we do a lot of stuff because we have to or we feel like we have to. But man, when you can step up and you find that day where you're like, nah, we ain't doing that. That is a great feeling.
Have to protect your no so that your yeses have value. You know, it's okay to tell somebody no, because that just literally increases the value of when you tell somebody yes. And I think when you have a guy like Deion Sanders and an athletic director like Ashley Robinson, they understand the power in their no's augments the strength and exponential profit margin of their yeses. So better deals are coming.
Yeah, I think my wife subscribes to that theory too. She Just kidding. Just kidding. Jokes. I can joke with Neely. All right. Before we go, as we kind of wrap up here, I'm going to give all the I won't call people haters, the complainers. Let me give you time to type in the comments what we did wrong, how I drank the Kool-Aid, and all the other things that you say about Neely. Neely, they talk about you way more than they do me.
I got to tell you, Tolly, I have yet to take your advice. You know, here we are. You know, when you count the spring season and the fall season and now a true off season, you've been giving me some sound advice, and one particular piece of advice I still haven't followed. Neely doesn't read the comments. So when y'all are giving me the hate, type away, because I ain't seeing it nowhere.
Yeah, just kidding. No, it's usually good. I just like to have a good time. You have your following, man. You have the auntie crowd locked down. You know, I had the video posted like 10 seconds, and I get all these, you know, these different shades of blue heart emojis in the comments. It's like, Neely.
The beard, Tolly, it's the beard, man. But now you're encouraging me to go read these comments. You know, uncles need aunties.
Yes, uncles and aunties go together. Yes, they do.
They do.
All right, man. That's usually the sign that we need to wrap things up. Neely, I appreciate you, man. Oh, no, this is the one thing we've got to say. So, on Super Bowl Sunday, I work all the time. I'm always thinking about work. I'm always thinking about content. I'm always planning. I'm just typing away to Neely. Like, Neely, and Neely was like not texting me back, and then he just texted me back, okay. I was like, okay, like me and Neely are usually like, boo. I texted something else back, and Neely was like, okay. I was like, hey man, what's going on? Where you give me all these okays? And so Neely was like, look man, I own a cigar bar. It's Super Bowl Sunday. I got a house full of people. I should have just waited till Monday to call you, to text you back. And I don't actively support the NFL anymore, so you know, Super Bowl Sunday doesn't mean anything to me. But that's not what I want to talk about. Tell me about your cigar shop. I had no idea.
Yeah, well, first I got to tell the listeners out there that it was Super Bowl Sunday when I realized how real the bromance between me and Tolly was. Because, you know, I felt obligated to reply, but I only had time to reply okay. And then he got in his feelings because all I said was okay.
I was like, I don't feel the love here.
It's the new level. Hey, but if you are ever in Jackson, Mississippi, man, Church Hill Smoke Shop. Been in business now 8 years. We're attached to Smith Will Stadium, where guys like Lenny Dykstra and Doc Gooden and Oil Can Boyd played at when they were, you know, in that AAA circuit with the Mets. Historic stadium. Tougaloo baseball plays there now, along with Jackson Public Schools. So our cigar shop is attached to Smithfield Stadium, right off Lakeland Drive. Cannot miss it, just a mile or two away from where Jackson State plays at Memorial Stadium. Churchill Smoke Shop, man. Come on out, Tolly. We got to get you in town next time you're here for a game and take you by and get you to choke on a cigar.
Yeah, that's exactly what I would do, choke on it. I'm not a smoker. I had no idea. I saw the pictures. I just thought that was a place you hung out. I did not realize you were the CEO, the owner, entrepreneur here.
It is a place I just hang out.
You just hang out there?
They don't listen to me, Tyler.
Oh, okay. I got you. I'm
like HBCU game day. They don't listen.
No, they do not. They do not.
Like nobody listens.
No, I type all day. I'm like, hey, what about the crickets? So I totally get it. All right, that's a cool deal, man. Really, really glad to see you out there with your many jobs, man. I had no idea, so that's really awesome.
Yeah, from from one bromance to another bromance. Let me just apologize for hitting you with the okay. I guess I should have really dissed you and just hit you with the K.
Yeah, I mean, an emoji would have been, a thumbs up, a fist bump, something. but because you and I are the same level of jerk, so I read your okay like the way I send okay to people. I was like, he just gave me a jerk okay.
What you were trying to discuss also added to that. We were, not to disclose it, but we were discussing some Cody issues, Coach of the Year issues. And I wasn't biting the hook because I was busy, but I think you took it as that I was snubbing you.
Yes, I did. I truly did. But it's all good. It is all good. That's the one thing about texts that are terrible. You always put your own tone and spin on it when the other person could have been like, okay. And you're like, okay. What? Like, so.
Well, there's no way in this, Tyler. Let me tell you that you don't have to text it. You can read it. You can hear my voice inflection, look in my eyes. I not only love Tyler Carr, I love HBCU Game Day, what you guys are doing for this space and for Black college football and sports. It is a wonderful thing. We need more people in the space, more quality programming like this. And we need to stop chasing people and begging them to cover us and just start supporting the people that do cover us. We're out there trying to cover other people's links and making them dollars, and they give nothing back to the community. When we live in a space, particularly in 2022, where there is enough HBCU content produced by HBCU people, such as HBCU Game Day. So, man, what you guys are doing is phenomenal. And if the pregame show could just touch the hem of y'all garments and be made whole, we would do it.
Man, y'all are sitting with the dude in the upper room, and you talking about you want to touch my hem of my garment. Come on, brother. Come on. I got the issue of blood over here, not you. All right. If you are still hanging out to this point, wow, you are special. Because Neely and I, for the last 5 minutes, have just had our own personal conversation. We've totally forgotten about you. All right. Until next time, he's Neely, The Pregame Show, Tyler Carr, HBCU Game Day. We'll see you guys later.